Is it audible? Good afternoon all. Good afternoon, Mr. Prathamesh. Yeah, this is the second class of environment for the batch 215. RB2 and RB5, right? Yes. Now, let us talk about, let us go through what we have discussed in the previous class. Let us see this one. What we discussed in the previous class. We started with the introduction of ecology and environment. We talked about the sources. After the sources, we discussed the very definition of ecology and the very definition of the environment. Then we talked about the birth of the subject called as ecology. At the same time, what are the articles that are related in our Constitution of India? After this one, we have seen the components of what is called as ecology, environment. There are two. One is called as biotic, another one is called as abiotic. After this one, we went to ecology. After the ecology, we have talked about the laws of ecology. What are the different laws are there in the ecology? Then we came to the levels of ecological organization. What are the levels of ecological organization, which is otherwise called as holism? After giving the differences between the ecology and environment, then we came across what is called as the levels of organization, which is otherwise called as holism in the ecology. Let me show where I have stopped in the previous class. I have given this particular picture. It's called as the holism. Holism in the ecology. Where I started with what is called as one individual species. One individual. If a group of the individuals of the same species are there, they are called as population. They are called as population. A group of population forms what is called as community. A group of communities which are interacting with the abiotic, nothing but the environmental conditions, what it is called as an ecosystem. This is called an ecosystem. A group of ecosystems which are having a similar type of climatic condition with a similar vegetation, where they are called as biomes. A group of such biomes is put together called as biosphere, and Earth is a biosphere. What is Earth? Earth is called as biosphere. This is what the biosphere. What is this biosphere? Simply a part of environment. Means what? Which is larger one. The environment is the one which is very, very larger one, right? This is where we stopped in the previous class. Now today in the class we are going to see the topics like number one, the significance of ecological studies. Significance of ecological studies. Of late, it has become very, very important. What do you mean by it has become very important? The study about the ecology has become very imperative. In fact, the ecology subject got entered into almost all the disciplines. Not only all the disciplines, they entered even into the competitive exams. And so UPSC has included this particular very syllabus in the year 2012. Earlier it was a part and parcel of either biology or geography, but right now specifically a separate discipline or separate syllabus is being given by the UPSC. Clear? These were the importance, right? Why so great importance is there, which is called as the significance of ecological studies. After seeing the significance, we will be seeing the approaches. There are different approaches for the ecological studies. What are the approaches? Approaches for ecology. How the ecology needs to be studied. There are two types of studies. One is called as aut ecology. Another one is called as syn ecology. A very, very important two is called as aut ecology and syn ecology. After discussing the aut ecology and syn ecology, we will be entering into the very, very important unit of environment. A very important unit of environment is called as ecosystem. This is called as ecosystem. This is where the ecosystem is. In the holism, where you can find the ecosystem, this is what the ecosystem. This is where we will be going to the ecosystem and we will be seeing the in-depth analysis of this ecosystem. What do you mean by ecosystem, the definition of ecosystem, what are its components, then what are the different types of ecosystems, then we will be coming across what is called as the very, very important one called as the functions of ecosystem. All they are included here in the ecosystem. Clear? This is how we will be approaching the subject. This is how we will be going, right? Now let us start with the first and foremost one called as significance of ecological studies. Why we need to study the ecology? Why the ecology has become so important? What is the significance? Let us see the significance of ecology. The first and foremost point, number one, the significance of ecology. What is the very importance of ecology? Why the ecologists are gaining more and more prominence, and why the ecological studies became very important, and why they are included even in the academic syllabus, like even engineering. What is the mother subject of ecology? It is biology. If it is there in the science subject, where we can understand. But how comes it has entered even into the section called as engineering? What is the importance? Come on, let us understand. Because ecology is the one which the ecologist seeks to study the various life forms. How the life is interacting with the non-life forms. What is the relation? How the life and the non-life is interacting. If we can study this life and the non-life interaction, if something goes wrong, suppose the best example, what is going on wrong right now, it is the climate change is happening. In order to rectify or in order to repair this particular wrong, we can bring some solutions with the help of the ecological studies. Means what? Come on. What do you mean by this one? Means what? What we have given the ecology as? This is completely as a whole is the environment. Just a refreshment of what we have discussed in the previous class. What is ecology? This is what the life is. Nothing but biosphere. Where it is interacting with the another spheres. Like all these are the non-life spheres. These are the non-life spheres where the life is not there. When they are intersected, you can find the life form here. This is what the life entity. How the reactions are there, how the interactions are there, whether the elements are absorbed into this one or released into this one, whether the elements are absorbed or released, whether which products are being absorbed and which products are released. This is called as the interactions that are happening between the life and the non-life forms. If at all you are studying carefully how this system is working, if something goes wrong, if the composition of the gases changes, if we know what is that gas that is being absorbed and what is that gas which is creating life, if you know the knowledge of this particular interaction, if something goes wrong here in this one, we can bring out some solution. What is that nutrient that is being exchanged between what is called as the life and the non-life forms like lith, nothing but rock sphere, where if this structure is understood, then if something goes wrong in this one, then we can come out with a solution. Therefore, for the study of the ecologist, write down like this. Give the heading as significance of ecological studies. Give the heading as significance of ecological studies. Under this one, the first and foremost point, give the heading as significance of ecological studies. The first and foremost point, ecologist seeks to understand, the ecologist seeks to understand the life processes, and its adaptations. The first and foremost point, ecologist seeks to understand the life processes, how the life processes are happening and how the individual species is trying to adapt in order to survive. Who will be having the knowledge? It is the ecologist. See the next very important point, the second one. The first and foremost one is the life processes itself. Who will be knowing the knowledge, or who is having the knowledge of life processes? It is the ecologist. Then the next one is very, very important. Write down as it is. The distribution and abundance of the species. Means what? What the ecologist seeks to understand? The ecologist seeks to understand the distribution and abundance of the species. What is this one, sir? Life process, we can understand. The basic life process, yes, we can understand whether the interactions are happening or not. What type of interaction? This is what the first one. Well, somewhat clarity is there. But what do you mean by distribution and abundance of the species? Now, understand this one. What do you mean by distribution of the species? If at all you are seeing some species, like one geographical area, take one geographical area. Which geographical area we are very familiar with? The so-called our country. Let us take one physiographic feature of our country called as Himalayas. Right? If at all you are taking Himalayas, the age of the formation of the Himalayas is one and the same, both in the east and west. The type of soil that is present is almost all one and the same in the east and west. Also, you can find the type of rocks that are formed in the Himalayas are one and the same. But what is the difference between the eastern Himalayas and the western Himalayas? If at all you are seeing the distribution of life, the distribution of species, either it can be a plant species or the animal species, there is a clear-cut differentiation between the species that are found in both the western Himalayas and the eastern Himalayas. Like I can give number of examples. If you are seeing the fruits like apples in the western Himalayas, where the western Himalayas, the best example like Kashmir, Shimla, they are very, very famous for the apple. Right? Where do you find the growth of the apples? It is in the western Himalayas. The same Himalayas are present even in the eastern side. Are these apples are growing there in the eastern Himalayas? What is the geographical area? Himalayas. When they form? Yes, eastern and western form during the same time period. What is the material with which it is made up of? Yes, both the western and the eastern are made up of with the same material. When all they are one and the same, the type of rock, the type of soil, the type of time period and the type of formation, the genesis is one and the same. Why apples are not seen in the eastern Himalayas? Can you find apples in Assam? Assam apple or Arunachal apple? You can't find. Why there is no such species which is present in the eastern, in the western Himalayas? See the difference. When apple is dominantly found in the western Himalayas, which fruit is dominantly found in the eastern Himalayas? It is pineapple. Apple in the western Himalayas, pineapple in the eastern Himalayas. If you are going to the eastern Himalayas, the entire northeastern India, right from Assam till Arunachal Pradesh, all the mountains, the hills that are present there, they are all the apple plantations, nothing but pineapple plantation. You can find a series of number of pineapple plantations. Wherever you go, you will be greeted with the pineapple trees, small shrubs where you can find the pineapple. Whereas in the western side, what you can find? Apples. See here, distribution of species. What are the species we are talking about? Fruit species like apples. Apples are there in the western Himalayas, pineapples are there in the eastern Himalayas. Who can give the answer for this one? It is the ecological studies. It is the ecologist who can understand why the particular set of the species are found here in the western side, why they are there in the eastern side. Not only this one, I can give a number of such examples, like one is apples, another one is, if at all you are comparing the spices. What is a very important spice that is found only in the western Himalayas? It is saffron. Saffron is a very important and a highly valuable spice that is found only in the western Himalayas. You can't find in the eastern Himalayas or for that matter any part of India. Whereas in the eastern Himalayas also you can find a spice, but not saffron, but it is ginger. What is the species that is found there? It is ginger that is found on large scale. If at all you are seeing the western side, you can find a very important products like what is called as the plums. You can find plums. You can find berries, strawberry, blueberry, blackberry. All these berries are found here. Where? In the western Himalayas. Plums, berries, peach. Whereas in the eastern side you can find, see the comparison. You can find the berries which are called as strawberries in the western Himalayas, whereas in the eastern Himalayas, though they are also Himalayas, though they are having the same type of soil, same type of conditions, you can find similar to that of the strawberry product which is called as lychee. Lychees are found there. Have you ever seen the lychee? Lychee appears exactly to that of the strawberry, but the entire taste, zine, everything is completely different. You need to peel off the skin of the lychee, whereas strawberries can be dipped and it can be eaten as it is. Clear? The taste is completely different. Lychees are found here on the eastern side, whereas the very important product called as tea is specifically grown only in the eastern side. You can't find the tea called as Kashmir tea or Shimla tea. There is no such tea called as Kashmir tea or Shimla tea. Where do you find tea? Yes, Darjeeling tea, Assam tea, very, very famous. Could understand why the products are distributed like this. The distribution of the species. Now, the distribution of the species and abundance. What do you mean by abundance? How many such species are present on in that locality? Abundance of the species and the distribution of the species is clearly given by the ecologist through a concept called as range of tolerance. Range of tolerance. Why an animal is present only in that region? Suppose if at all you are talking about one particular species, maybe the lion-tailed macaw. Where this lion-tailed macaw, that it is a monkey species, it is restricted to only the western Ghats of Karnataka and Kerala. Nowhere else you can find. On the same lines, whenever you are talking about the Asiatic Gir lions, found only in India, the western part of India. You are talking about the Royal Bengal tigers. Yes, they are found only in the eastern side of India. That means what? The tigers are restricted to the eastern India. The lions are there in the western India, where there is a clear-cut specific boundary delineated for the species, which is otherwise called as distribution of species. The distribution of species is depending upon range of tolerance. What do you mean by range of tolerance? Each and every species, whether it may be the plant species or the animal species, whether it may be the plant species or the animal species, each and every species is having its specific range to tolerate the climatic conditions. It will be having a specific conditions to tolerate temperature. It can be found only in the specific pressure condition. It can be found only in the specific rainfall condition. Means what? Etc. etc. Means what? Each and every species is having its unique character. If that range of tolerance to tolerate that particular temperature, to tolerate that particular amount of rainfall, to tolerate that particular amount of pressure, if it exceeds, that species cannot live there. This is what called as range of tolerance. What the range of tolerance decides? The range of tolerance decides the distribution of the species. The range of tolerance decides the distribution of the species. Why particular species? Maybe if at all you are talking about the snow leopard. The best example, snow leopard. Where do you find snow leopard? In the entire globe, snow leopard can be seen in only 12 countries. Only 12 countries. It doesn't mean that the snow is not there in other countries like America, North America you can find snow, in South America you can find the snow, but snow leopards are found, not found. They are restricted to only 12 countries of the world. Out of 197 countries that are present here in the world, there are just 12 countries where the snow leopards are there. Why? Because again, the range of tolerance. Each and every species has got its own range. When that range exceeds, the animal cannot found there. The best example, mangoes. The Europeans, when they came to India, they don't know what is a mango. They don't know what is a mango. Because of the Europeans, where they had marketed mango like anything in the Western world, and it became the king of the fruits. Why it is restricted to one particular region? Example, tropical areas. Because range of tolerance. Now could understand what do you mean by range of tolerance? The range of tolerance not only decides the distribution where it has to live, also how much intensity it should be growing, which is otherwise called as abundance. What you need to remember? You need to remember the concept of range of tolerance. Each and every species is having a range of tolerance. The best example, if at all you want to think in a very, very practical way, because of greater range of tolerance, you are there for the UPSC exam. Just imagine or compare your close friend who happens to be your friend right from your KG till PG. Those people, they have chosen some other field, not the UPSC. Though they are very close to you, though they are having the same type of taste, same type of attitude, almost all one and the same, but they didn't enter into this one. They feel like, no Baba, no, I don't want to be say, I don't want to do all this hard work. I need to enjoy life, I need to do something else. And they have preferred some other field. Range of tolerance. That range of tolerance is very important. Hope you understand with the practical example. But don't write these examples in the exam. What is important is understanding the concept is important. That's why I have given the example here, the practical example. The practical examples are for our understanding, right? Don't write these things in the exam. Range of tolerance means what each and every species is having, okay, is having a specific range. Now coming to the Himalayan case. See the Himalayas. They are Himalayas made up of same type of rock, same type of material during the same type of same age, same time period. But why? See the difference. What are the reasons? You can make use of this information even in your geography. Whenever there is a question regarding these differences in the species, in the geography, yes, you can talk about this one. Now see here, why such differences are there? All these differences are because of the climatic differences. The Western Himalayas and the Eastern Himalayas, though they are called as the Himalayas, but the climatic differences between the West and the Eastern Himalayas are quite varied. A very great contrasting climatic conditions are there. What are these contrasting climatic conditions? Point number one. One is the Eastern Himalayas are located at lower latitude. Don't simply make notes here. Whatever I am writing you on the board, you need to write down definitely, but don't simply write and believe. You need to open that class, you need to check this one. Every time whenever I am talking about one particular thing, you need to check in atlas. Then once you see the area, if you are listening just, okay, they are located in the lower latitudes, they are located in the upper latitudes, maybe after 1 year, 1.5 years, what happens? You may get confused and you will be writing Western Himalayas are located in the lower latitudes. When you see once, it will get imprinted in the mind. Got the point? Therefore, what my request, it's not suggestion. I am even requesting you to open the atlas, check the Himalayas. Sir, atlas, sir, this is ecology class, sir. I thought atlas is useful only for geography. Atlas is useful even for what is called as history, international relations. For all these subjects, what is important? Atlas is important. You should be having atlas in your mind, in fact. Since you are the beginners, let you see the atlas right now. Once it gets imprinted in the mind, yes, you can refer. The moment once you close your eyes, entire India picture should be there before you. That should be the practice. Is it okay? Now, see this one. Eastern Himalayas are located in the lower latitude, whereas Western Himalayas are there in the upper latitudes. What happens when a land or when a region is located in the lower latitude or the upper latitude? Lower the latitude, more the temperature. Upper the latitude, very low the temperature, very low temperature. Lower latitude, you can find high temperature. What I said, did I replace this one or what? No, again I am repeating this one. Lower latitude regions will be having high temperature. The upper latitude region will be having low temperature, right? This is a common understanding. Not only this one, see the one, rainfall. See the difference, rainfall. Where do you find very great amount of rainfall? In the Eastern Himalayas. In the Eastern Himalayas, you can find high amount of rainfall, whereas in the Western Himalayas, you can find very low amount of rainfall. They are arid and semi-arid. That's why you can find the desert like cold desert, the cold desert of India. What is that cold desert of India? Which stretches all the way from Ladakh region, Leh region into Himachal Pradesh. The cold desert of India extends into one union territory and one state, from the state of Himachal Pradesh till the Ladakh union territory. Could understand this is what the cold desert, because of not having very high rainfall. Why the rainfall is not high in the Western Himalayas? This can be question again. Either it may be ecology, either it may be geography, whatever may be the one. What is important is getting the mark is important. Getting marks is important. Don't differentiate, don't draw lines between the subjects. Right? Now, when you are talking about the rainfall is high in the Eastern Himalayas, rainfall is less in the Western Himalayas. But why? They are Himalayas, all they are Himalayas, but why they are having more rainfall? Because the Eastern Himalayas are closer to the water body. The Eastern Himalayas are much close to the water bodies. Whenever the mountains are closer to the water bodies, then what happens? You can find a very great amount of rainfall, because of within no time the winds enter from the water onto the land, onshore winds, whereas the Western Himalayas are far away from the water body. When they are far away from the water body, the attractive capacity or the rainfall giving capacity for the winds will be less. All these things you can see in the atlas, you can learn the things. Whenever you are looking at the atlas, you can check. I hope all you people know how to read atlas. How to read atlas, how to identify mountains on a plain paper. It is a color difference. The red color one, highly elevated regions. See this one. The low elevated regions, the areas which are very close to the mean sea level are given with a green color. What type of green? Dark green color. Those areas which are moving away from the mean sea level are given in the light green color. As and when you move above the plain areas, then the areas which are far away from the mean sea level are given in the yellowish color. The lighter the yellow color, less the height is. More the yellow color, more the height is. Nothing but they are the plateaus. Then farther from the area which is called as the mean sea level, where the very tall elevated peak areas are given either in the red color, orange color. Less the red color, less the orange color means what? Less the height, more dark the color is, more height the mountain is. On the same lines, even in the water body, entire water body is given in the blue color. Very light blue color represents the continental shelf regions. Very light blue color represents continental shelf, where you can find by the side of the land. Whenever you are seeing the areas by the side of the land, the area is shallow in nature. Means what? It is light bluish in color. The moment when you move away from the land, more away from the land, then you can find dark blue color. More the blue color thickness, more the depth is. This is how we can identify by seeing the physical map. Clear? What is a very important point you need to remember here? The ecological studies tries to explain why the animal is distributed in that locality only. Why there are so many species in that locality only. Is it clear? This is what the ecological studies. This is just the second point. See the third point. See the third point. The third point is it can understand. To understand the third very very important point is called as the third one. The ecological studies helps in bringing the solutions for environmental problems. The ecological studies helps in bringing the solutions for the environmental problems. How can the environmental problems can be solved? Now, let me give some of the environmental problems. Right now, the government of India is very very serious regarding one plastic called as the single-use plastic. This is a very very important problem right now. What is happening? The plastic, as it is non-degradable material, where it is entering into all other spheres like lithosphere, yes it has entered. It has entered into hydrosphere, yes it has entered. Even into the atmosphere it has entered. Whenever the plastic is being broken, it is turning into small microplastics. These microplastics are falling in the water body from the rivers. They are making their way into the oceans, and these microplastics, as they are not digestible or they are not degradable, whenever the marine organisms like fishes, lobsters, all other species, whenever they consume, these animals are dying. Have you ever observed this one? Some of the ecologists are very keen in watching the cattle. If at all you are having a very keen observation, when you are moving along the roadside, some of the NGOs will be watching the cattle, where the cattle will be taking the food from the garbage. If the plastic material is there, immediately they will be snatching the plastic cover from the mouth of the cattle. Many times you can find this type of situations along the roadside. Why? Because as the poor cattle is unable to understand what is plastic, what is the food. As the food is dumped in the carry bag, what we call this one as a carry bag, the plastic carry bag, and it is thrown in the garbage. In order to consume that food, the cattle used to consume even the cover. The moment when the cover goes into the body of the animal, especially cow, ox, since it is undigestible, it is non-degradable, it chokes the entire intestinal system and the cattle dies. As a awareness campaign where the NGOs are roaming in and out of the urban localities, wherever the cattle population is there more, they will be checking the garbage. The garbage pits will be checked. All the plastic will be separated by these people. See, this is a very important work that is done by these people. If the cattle consumes the plastic, what happens? And the cattle intestine gets chokes off. This is what the problem. This is a big problem. The next problem, when we in India, we don't have good amount of what is called as oil security, which is otherwise called as energy security. What is this energy security? Since India is not having enough energy resources like oil and natural gas, therefore we need to import oil and natural gas, and so we are importing. Fine. Whenever we are importing, this crude oil needs to be refined in the refineries, and therefore we are refining the crude oil into petrol, diesel, kerosene, naphtha. All these works are happening. But in the process of importing the crude oil, sometimes the boats, the steamers, the containers which are bringing the oil, they meet with the accident and go for, which are called as oil spills. Oil spills on the high seas, or maybe in the Arabian Sea or in the Bay of Bengal. What happened very recently off the coast of Chennai? Very recently, I am not talking about the 1990s, 1970s or somewhere. I am talking about the incident that has taken place during 2017. What happened off the coast of Chennai? One of the oil tanker all of a sudden got submerged in the water because of some technical snag. When the tanker got what is called as submerged in the water, all the oil spill on the water. Since the density of the oil much lesser than the density of the water, therefore the oil started floating. How to clean that one? That is what the oil spills. Oil spills on the water. Also the oil sludge. Oil sludge in the refineries. The refineries like, there are number of refineries. Barauni, a very very important refinery of Bihar. Barauni. Then Naharkatia. There is a refinery called as Naharkatia in Assam. Naharkatia, Nunmati of Assam. Then we can find Mathura oil refinery in the UP. Then Cochin oil refinery. There are number of such oil refineries. Wherever the oil refineries are there, whenever the oil spills on the land, it turns into the barren land. The land is unfit for any purpose, not just for cultivation. For every activity, the land becomes barren. It is not useful. And so the water will not be useful for any purpose. Therefore, it is a biggest problem. I am giving just 1-2 problems. There are number of such problems. For all these problems, what is the solution? The solution is from the ecologist. The ecological studies are coming up with the new solutions. What are the new solutions? These people started developing certain solutions where they are called as bioremediations. Means what? Remedy is there through biological elements. Bioremediation. What is this bioremediation? Not using any chemical compound, not using such a harmful compounds, biologically where the species are available naturally, with the help of this natural species where the cleaning of the environment can be done. Recently what these people has observed, the ecologist has observed, they have discovered one particular fungi. See the answer for this one? One particular fungi called as Aspergillus. Aspergillus is having the ability to break the plastic. To break the plastic compounds. When the fungus is naturally available, what we can do, we can allow all the fungus to be present in that locality where more and more plastic is there. Come on, bring that fungus, throw that fungus on that region where the plastic pollution is there. When the plastic is being broken and it is being consumed by these fungus, what happens? The plastic will not be there. It will get cleared. This is what the solution brought by the ecologists. Also for these oil spills, where the solution is called as, there is an organization called as TERI. What is the organization? The organization called as TERI, the Energy and Resources Institute. What is this answer? What is the abbreviation? The name of the institute is called as TERI, T-E-R-I, the Energy and Resources Institution. What this institution developed, it has developed a very important product called as oil zappers, and the product is called as Oilovirus S and the oil zappers. What are these Oilovirus and the oil zappers? The scientists have identified such bacteria which can feed on oil sludge or on the oil, nothing but hydrocarbons. They have identified such bacteria where they can eat the oil and they can survive. The institution called as TERI, after working for 7 years restlessly, after working for 7 continuous years, they came out with a solution what is called as oil zappers, oilophorus. Where this oilophorus is and the oil zappers is nothing but it's a combination of 5 important bacteria, where the bacteria habits, the lifestyle of the bacteria is they can consume what is called as the hydrocarbons, they can feed on hydrocarbons, and the hydrocarbon will be broken into water and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide we can maintain, we can manage, but whereas oil we cannot manage. Therefore, all these oil zapper packets are being, means what, all these 5 bacteria united were brought and they are being thrown on the waters of the coast of Chennai. Not only this one, in all the refineries as a mandatory condition where the oil zappers and the oilophorus are being allowed to throw in all the oil sludge areas. Within weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, maybe a maximum of 1 month, entire oil is being consumed by this bacteria and it is naturally cleaned. This is what the solution. See, aspergillus, oil zappers, oilophorus. Also, again, some of the problems. What are the problems? The problems like climate change, ozone depletion. What is a very important solution given by the ecologist? The ecologist has discovered that there is a species called as peepal. All we know about this tree, peepal trees. Peepal trees are very, very important trees that are commonly found in and around the India. What is the technical name of this peepal tree? It is called as this is a technical name. 1 second, let me check this technical name and let me give this technical name. They are called as Ficus religiosa. It's called as Ficus religiosus. This is what the technical name of this peepal tree. What the scientists has discovered, they discovered that this particular tree is producing one particular organic compound called as isoprene. It is producing such a compound called as isoprene compound, which is helpful for protecting the ozone. Protecting the ozone. Also, the very tree leaves, the leaves of the peepal are good in absorbing the particulate matter. What is this particulate matter, which is popularly called as PM, particulate matter? What do you mean by particulate matter? Small solid particles that are present in a micro, what is called as millimicrons, in the millimicron size, they will be there in the air. Whenever we people breathe, as they are so small, so minute, they enter into the lungs and get permanently fixes in our lungs, creating all sorts of diseases like asthma, bronchitis, all these things. Therefore, this particular tree which helps in absorbing the particulate matter, therefore purifying the air. Clear? This is about the peepal tree. Also, there is a tree called as neem tree, where all we people are well aware, which is otherwise called as the Ajar erecta indica, the scientific name. This neem is having a very great capacity to absorb more and more carbon dioxide than other trees. When the neem plant can absorb more and more carbon dioxide, what happens? The carbon dioxide in the area will be reduced, which is otherwise called as the carbon sequestration. In the process of afforestation, what is the technique where the people will be going for cleaning the environment, it is afforestation. Growing more and more trees in the forested areas or in the non-forested area. If at all it is happening in the forested area, it is called as reforestation. If it is happening in the non-forest area, it is called as afforestation, which is a very common definition between these two, right? Whenever such trees which are having the ability to absorb more and more carbon dioxide are selected and they are grown there, then whatever the carbon dioxide that is present in the entire locality is being sequestrated. Therefore, the carbon dioxide will be very less in the atmosphere. This is what called as the afforestation program. See, who will be giving all this information? All this information will be given by the ecologist. The ecologists are the one where they are coming up with the solutions, where the solutions are called as bioremediations, nothing but biological solutions. Whenever such solutions are being applied, the nature will never degrade. You will be having very great effect or impact from these solutions. Clear? These are some of the significances of ecological studies. There are number of such studies, number of such significances. Write some more. How many I have given? I think it's 4 or 5. Now the next one, come on, write down next one. It studies the ecological studies. Write down like this. The ecological studies explain the movements of materials and nutrients. Explains the movements of materials and the nutrients from abiotic to biotic. Ecological studies explains the movements of material and nutrients from abiotic to biotic. Right? Then next point, for the ecological conservation, ecological studies are very important. For the ecological conservation, the ecological studies are very important. Right, this is about the what is called as significance of ecological studies. Right, this is about the significance of ecological studies. Come on, after this one, after the significance of ecological studies, let us move to the next one called as approaches to the ecological studies. Come on, approaches to the ecological studies. What are the different approaches? Come on. There are basically two approaches. Hope all you have written those things, the significance of ecological studies. I have dictated, at the same time parallel explained, right? Now, come on, write down the next one called as approaches to the ecological studies. There are different approaches for the ecological studies. One is called as art ecology, and the one is called as syn ecology. A very popular type of the popular approaches to study the ecology is art ecology and syn ecology. What do you mean by art ecology and what is syn ecology? Give the side heading as art ecology. Approaches to the ecological studies, there are two types of approaches. One is called as art ecology and one is syn ecology. Give the side heading art ecology. What is art ecology? Listen, after that one you can write. I will be dictating, you can write, right? First of all, listen this one. What is art ecology? Art ecology is nothing but how the individual species is interacting with the natural environment. How any one individual, how a species is interacting. How a species is interacting with its natural environment. This is what called as art ecology. What the art ecology talks about? It talks about how an individual species interacts with the natural environment. This is what called as the study of art ecology. Now what is synecology? Synecology also it talks about the same interaction, but how a group of species interact with their natural environment. Could you understand what is the difference between the synecology and art ecology? Art ecology talks about how an individual species interacts with the natural environment, whereas synecology talks about how the group of species interact with their natural environment. If at all you are studying the individual species, where it is called as art ecology. If at all you are talking about the group of species, where it is called as synecology. That's why art ecology talks about, do you remember this one, what is called as the holism? See this one? In the last class what I have given like in the holism, I have equated this particular holism with art ecology. These two I have related with the synecology. What is art ecology? Art ecology talks about how an individual is interacting with its natural environment. Is it clear? Understand the concept. Don't write anything, just listen. I will be dictating, you can write that one. What is art ecology? Art ecology talks about the how one particular individual or a species interacts with its natural environment. Whereas synecology talks about how a population in a community interact with the natural environment. Is it clear? This is about the art ecology and synecology. Come on, write down, give the heading as art ecology. Give the heading as art ecology. Write down this one. Art ecology talks about how an individual interact with the environment. Art ecology talks about how an individual species interact with the natural environment. With the natural environment. Full stop. The individual of any species in their natural environment. The individual of any species in their natural environment. Please write down. Hope all you people are writing. The individual of any species in their natural environment reproduces, comma, the individual of any species in their natural environment reproduces, comma, carry out various metabolic activities, carries out various metabolic activities and carry out various metabolic activities and obtain various resources from the environment in order to efficiently perform obtain various resources from their environment in order to efficiently perform various activities and to increase various activities and to increase their chances of survival. Increase their chances of survival. What is the meaning of whatever I have dictated right now? Nothing but how one particular species, see this one, how one particular species, what the art ecology talks about, how one particular species interact with the environment to obtain its resources. What is environment? Environment is nothing but everything around surrounding. From the surrounding it tries to get the food, it tries to get the shelter, and not only it tries to get the food, shelter, it tries to accommodate itself according to the condition. Say for example, if it is a cold season, the body of the species try to accommodate in the cold climatic conditions. If the temperatures of the area are very hot or warm, then again its body try to accustom to the warm climatic condition. How one particular individual is interacting, such a interaction is called as the art ecological approach, where the approach is at the species level. The approach, this ecological approach is at the species level. Is it clear? This is called as art ecology. Now, how this ecological approach is very important. How this is very important, why this is a very important, understand this one. There are two types of, come on, make note of this one as it is, whatever I am writing on the board, make note as it is. There are two types of techniques where the species, one individual species try to accustom itself to the natural environment. How a species can accustom itself? There are two ways. There are two ways how a individual species can accustom itself to the natural environment. There are two ways, you can write like this, there are two ways how a individual species can accustom itself to its environment. What are two? One is called as acclimatization. Acclimatization. It's called as acclimatization. One is called as acclimatization, another one is called as adaptation. There are two ways how an individual species gets adapted or get accustomed to its natural environment. One is called as acclimatization, another one is called as adaptation. What do you mean by acclimatization? Listen, what do you mean by acclimatization? It is for a temporary purpose. It is for a temporary purpose. A species try to accommodate itself to the new type of conditions. The best example, what is the best example? Say for example, whenever you are climbing the mountain. When you are climbing a mountain, what happens? As and when you are going to the upper reaches of the mountain, what happens to the availability of the oxygen? Oxygen availability will be less. When the oxygen availability is less, then what happens? The species try to acclimatize, adapts, try to adjust itself with the less oxygen. How? The intensity of breathing will be increased. Whenever the breathing intensity increases, therefore you will be taking more and more oxygen. Whenever you are breathing, when the oxygen is less, if it is more, your breathing will be normal. Whenever the oxygen level is less, you try to increase the depth of the breathing. Whenever you try to increase the depth of the breathing, then what happens? Whatever the sufficient required oxygen for the body is there, you will be supplying. That is what called as acclimatization. We never give any command to your mind. Since you are moving on the top of the mountain, you need to breathe more. We will not be giving the command to any part of the body. Automatically the body adjusts itself to the new type of conditions. This is for temporary. Why? Because you will be going to the top of the mountain, again you will be coming back. It is a temporary arrangement which is called as acclimatization. Come on, write down. What do you mean by acclimatization? What do you mean by acclimatization? It is a process of becoming accustomizing. It's a process of becoming accustomizing. It is a process of becoming accustomizing. accustomizing. Accustomizing to a new climate or new condition. To a new climate or a new condition for the time being. Accustomizing to the new climatic condition or a new condition for a time being means what? For a temporary purposes. This is called as acclimatization. If that particular accustomization, pay attention, what you have written right now, acclimatization. What is acclimatization? For a temporary purpose, you are trying to adjust yourself. If that particular adjustment is for a prolonged time period, may be permanent or may be prolonged, maybe for years together, which is called as adaptation. Which is called as adaptation. What is adaptation and what is acclimatization? There is a small minute difference. What is that difference? Acclimatization is nothing but adjusting to the new conditions for a stipulated or a temporary time period, whereas if such an arrangement is there for a long period or permanently, it's called as adaptation. Is it clear? These are the difference. Come on, write down adaptation. Write down in your own. What I have given is acclimatization. You put it in your own words. What is adaptation? It's a process of accustomizing a species to a new conditions permanently or for a prolonged time period. It's called as adaptation. Is it clear? This is what called as adaptation. Each and every species has to adapt in order to survive. If this species is adamant, no, I won't adapt. You people, you started adapting to what is called as the civil services. Till this point of time, you studied what is the so-called subject engineering, some other people medicine, some other people went for even the other subjects like law. Clear? All you people are having different subjects, but right now you are acclimatizing. Some of you people may be acclimatizing, some of you people may be adapting to geography, to ecology environment, to polity. Polity where you left, somewhere in the way back in your 10th standard. History, for that matter, history you left, it was a history for you. Could understand? The subject history was a history for you. You left somewhere way back in the BCs. But right now again you are searching for Akbar, Babur, who is this fellow? Everyone you will be searching for all these things. Right? This is what is happening. Means what? You are trying to adapt. Some people who are show off, trying to they will be showing to the entire society that I am aspirant of civil service. They will be acclimatizing. But the serious people like you are adapting. Could understand? This is what the adaptation. Adaptation and acclimatization. Hope you people are clear with these two terms. Right? The best example for acclimatization is whenever the oxygen levels in the atmosphere reduces, the depth of the breathing increases. Got the point? Now, the next one. Adaptation. Already have written the definition. What is adaptation? It's a long-term process, right? There are three types of adaptations. The individual try to interact its natural environment in the three forms. There are three types of adaptation. What are the three types? One is called as physiological adaptation. One is called as the physiological adaptation. All these are very, very important. You need to understand the concept. Don't try to mug up the things. Right? One is called as the physiological adaptation. Put it on the paper, write down. Whatever I am writing, you keep on jotting this one. One is called as the physiological adaptation. The second one is called as morphological adaptation. It's called as the morphological adaptation. The third one is called as the behavioral. It's called as the behavioral adaptation. Physiological adaptation, morphological adaptation, behavioral adaptation. Is it clear? The font is okay or shall I write boldly? I think it's clear. You people are young guys, not like me. I am an old Buddha where I cannot see the small letters, but whereas you are the young chaps. You can catch like that. Okay? What happened? Stream issue? No, there is no streaming issue, right? Streaming is good. The font is okay. If the font is okay, then fine. I will be writing in the same font. If you want more or larger font, then okay, it's perfect. Okay, that's why I said no. You people are the young chaps. You can cast this one like just like that. Okay. Now, physiological, morphological, and behavioral adaptation. Right now, give the side heading physiological. Physiological adaptation. What do you mean by the physiological adaptation? What do you mean by the physiological adaptation? What do you mean by adaptation first of all? Adaptation is nothing but accustomizing to the new. A species, whenever it is trying to accustom itself to the new environment, new climatic conditions for a long term period or permanently. Write down adaptation, come on, write down side heading adaptation. What is adaptation? The adaptation is the process of accustomizing. Adaptation is a process of accustomizing to the new environment, or to the new conditions, by any species, either permanently or for a prolonged period. Either permanently or for a prolonged period. This is what called as adaptation. Clear? I hope it is clear now. Right? It's called as adaptation. There are three types. One is called as physiological, morphological, behavioral. Now, physiological adaptation. What do you mean by the physiological adaptation? Listen. After this, I will be dictating. You can write. First, understand the concept. What do you mean by the physiological adaptation? Nothing but physically the body of the species try to adjust. The body of the species try to adjust to the new conditions. What do you mean by this one? Say for example, if we, the human, if at all you are living in such a hot climatic condition, nothing but warm climatic condition, if the temperatures are soaring to 45, 46, 47 degrees centigrade, what happens? Naturally, in order to keep our body cool, the water that is present will oozes out through the sweat pores. What we call it as sweat, sweating the body. You will feel sultry. Nothing but the sweat will be oozing out of the body. Why the sweat needs to come out of the body? It is a process of adaptation. What we call this one as perspiration. What do you mean by perspiration? The sweat will be coming out of all parts of the body from the skin. Why the skin needs to pump out the water from the body? Because in order to keep the body cool. If any cool breeze or any amount of air that is blowing, when the body is wet, it makes the body cool. Could you understand? This is what called as perspiration. Perspiration is a process of physiological adaptation. Listen, first of all, try to understand this one. Don't write. First of all, listen. What is perspiration? Nothing but oozing of the sweat from the body. When the sweat is coming out from the body of the human, when the sweat will be there during the peak summers, why only sweat will be coming in the summers alone? Because in the summers, the body needs to keep cool. Therefore, the sweat will be coming out. Are we giving the command to the body? Yes, come on, sweat, come out. It will not be like this. The body is automatically it is adapted to the climatic conditions permanently, where whenever the temperature rises to particular height, yes, the sweat has to come out. This is one example. The second one, what is the very best example for again the physiological adaptation? Nothing but shivering. When will we be shivering? When the temperatures are around some 47, you will be shivering or what? We will never shiver. The moment when the temperatures below or temperatures falls down to such a level where our body cannot accustom, then the body try to shiver. The energy that is there hidden in the muscles will get consumed The moment when the energy is consumed, the energy is released out in the form of heat. Therefore, our body will be kept warm by ourselves. There is no some external heat. External heat is not supplied to the body. Our body is producing some heat so that we can stay somewhat warm in the cold climatic condition. The shivering is again another very important example. Since these things are very common to us, therefore I have taken these two examples. Let me show the examples in the animals and the plants. Let me give the examples of animals in the plants. What is this physiological adaptation? The best example for physiological adaptation. What is physiological adaptation? Adjusting the body of the species to the climatic conditions, to the new type of climatic condition. The best example is called as hibernation. The best example, hibernation. What is this hibernation? Hibernation is the process where the animal will reduce all its metabolic activities and it will be under rest for a stipulated time period, maybe for 5 months, maybe for 6 months. Which is the best animal which is performing hibernation? Hibernation. The hibernation is done by the animal called as right. Is it okay? This is what? The hibernation. See the process. What is hibernation? In the entire summer season, in the Arctic Circle, the animal called as the polar bear, the animal polar bear will be keep on consuming the food. Whatever the food is available, all the food is being consumed and it will be storing in the form of fat in its body. Because how much it will be consuming? It will be consuming more than required, because it knows very well that in the next coming 6 months, the season is winter, it cannot come out in such a harsh climatic conditions. Therefore, it will keep all its metabolic activities, like walking, it won't walk, like doing some work, it won't be doing any work. Whatever the works, whatever the action that requires energy will be stopped, meaning what? It keeps the metabolic activities to a lower level and will be keep on sleeping. Whenever the sleep takes place, means what? Whenever the animal sleeps, the amount of energy consumed is little, and therefore with the consumption of little energy, it will be staying for prolonged time period and it comes out only again in the next summer. Such a prolonged sleep of the animal in order to consume energy, this is called as hibernation. It's called as hibernation. This is what? A process of adaptation. It is called as process of adaptation. What is hibernation in the cold areas? What is hibernation for the animals in the cold areas? There is another type of physiological adaptation in the warm and hot areas. The name of this one is called as aestivation. It's called as aestivation or aestivation. What is aestivation? Aestivation is nothing but the adaptation of the species to the hot and warm climatic conditions. The best example, many of the insects, even amphibians, for that matter, even the fishes in the water, whenever the warm climatic conditions are there, whenever the temperatures are too high, what they will be doing? They will be reducing all their metabolic activities and they will be sitting silent without doing any work. Such type of prolonged silence of that particular species is called as aestivation. What is aestivation? Is nothing but hibernation in the cold areas. Aestivation is for the warm areas. Is it clear? Hibernation is a process of physiological adaptation in the cold climatic condition. Aestivation is the process of physiological adaptation in the warm climatic condition. Whereas in the case of plants, these two are in the case of animals. These two are there in the case of animals. Even the same type of physiological adaptation can be found even in the plants, where this is called as dormancy. Dormancy. What do you mean by dormancy? The plant goes dormant. What do you mean by plant goes dormant? It will be sleeping. How the plant can be sleeping? How can this can happen, sir? Yes, there are certain plants, especially in the desert areas, where the water will not be available throughout the year. What it will be doing? The plant performs all its activities within the rainy season time period. Whenever there is a rain for just 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or maybe 1 week for deserts, within the time period it performs all these activities and it develops into what is called as, and it develops into spores. The spore formation in the case of plants is the best example for dormancy. Some of you people might have seen in the WhatsApp videos, like one small pore or bud-like structure is there. Whenever it is kept in the water, it starts growing, it starts springing up. All the leaves will be coming out, all the structure of the plant will be coming out. This is what the spore formation. The spore formation in the plant is a process of physiological adaptation. Is it clear? This is what called as the physiological adaptation. Write down. It's called as the physiological adaptation. Yes, just one more point. Just one more point. After this point, you can write. Okay. Who will be performing this hibernation and activation? Basically, there are different types of animals. Animals are of two types. One is called as endotherms. Other one is called as ectotherms. Which are called as endotherms, which are called as ectotherms. Endotherms are the species which will be investing certain energy to keep their body temperature constant. The best example is human. The best example, mammals. They will not be changing the body temperature according to the situations. But there are some species, according to the temperature of the surrounding, they will be changing their body temperature, where they are called as ectotherms. Endotherms and ectotherms. Normally, who will be going for the physiological adaptation, especially hibernation and activation? It is the endotherms. It is the endotherms who will be performing this type of adaptation. Clear? This is the endotherms. What are endotherms? Endotherms are the species which will be maintaining their body temperature constant according to the climatic conditions. Right? This is about the endotherms and the ectotherms. But what are the best examples? The processes that are present in the physiological adaptation are hibernation, activation in the case of animals. In the case of plants, it is dormancy. Come on, write down. Give the heading as the physiological adaptation. Give the heading as the physiological adaptation. Give the heading as the physiological adaptation. What is this physiological adaptation? What is this physiological adaptation? Side heading, physiological adaptation. The species try to adjust to its natural environment. The species try to adjust to its natural environment. The species try to adjust to its natural environment physically through different adaptation techniques. Like number one, hibernation. Number one, hibernation. 2, estivation. And 3, dormancy. Siding, hibernation. It is seen in the polar bears. Siding, hibernation. It is seen in the polar bears. It is seen in the polar bear, full stop. It is seen in the polar bears, full stop. The animal reduces all its metabolic activities. The animal reduces all its metabolic activities and consumes. The animal reduces all its metabolic activities and consumes very limited energy. Very limited energy and remains dormant for prolonged period of 6 months. Remain dormant for the prolonged period of 6 months during winters. During winters. The next one, side heading, estivation. Estivation. What is hibernation in the cold? What is hibernation in the cold conditions? What is hibernation? What is hibernation for the cold conditions? Estivation is for the warm conditions. Estivation is for the warm climatic conditions. What is hibernation for the cold climatic condition? Estivation is for the warm climatic conditions. Examples: insects, amphibians. Insects and amphibians performs estivation in the hot and warm climatic conditions. The third one, dormancy. The third one is dormancy. Dormancy is the physiological adaptation of the plants in the hot climatic conditions, hot and arid climatic conditions. Dormancy is the physiological adaptation for the plants in the hot and arid climatic conditions. The plants develop spores. The plants develops into spores under arid conditions. What do you mean by arid conditions? Arid is nothing but the desert conditions. Okay, under these arid conditions. Under the arid conditions, right? The next one, after the physiological adaptation, let us move to the morphological adaptation. Come on, let us move to the morphological adaptation. Now again, don't write anything, first listen. Understand the concept, then we can talk about the dictation and you can write something, right? Come on, listen first of all. What do you mean by morphology? There is a question of Rishabh, we will be explaining, right? Just hold on to it, Rishabh, okay? We'll explain this one. What do you mean by morphological adaptation? What is morphology? You might have heard about this term in the geography, geomorphology. What do you mean by morphology? Morphing. What is morphing? Nothing but changes. What is geomorphology? Nothing but the changes, the study about the changes on the earth's surface. Ology study, morphing changes, geo, earth. The study about the changes on the earth's surface, right? This is about the geomorphology. But what we are studying here is a morphing. What do you mean by morphing? Morphing is nothing but changing. What is changed here? The structure of the animal. The physical structure of the animal is being changed. What do you mean by the physical structure of the animal? Whenever you are seeing the plants are the one which are having very sensitive parts. But there are certain plants where they develop thorns over their body or spines over their body. Nothing but they are called as xerophytic vegetation. They are called as xerophytic. What are plants? Plants are the one which are having the sensitive body parts, but there are certain plants, they develop what is called as the thorns over them. What is a thorn? Thorn is nothing but the hard structure which can get pierced into the animal or some other species. What is the thorn developmental phenomena? Why the thorn is forming here? Understand this one. What is the condition here? Because of lack of water. What is the climatic condition? The climatic condition is arid. Where do you find xerophytic vegetation? Xerophytic vegetation is nothing but the thorn bearing vegetation. Where you can find that one? It is found in such area where the water availability is very less. Where do you find water availability less? Nothing but desert areas. In the desert areas. In the desert, what happens? Maybe in a year, you can find rainfall for one day or maybe hardly 1 week. Beyond that one, you can't find the rainfall. Sometimes there is no rainfall at all in the entire year. This is the condition of the deserts, right? Now, when such a conditions are prevailing in that locality, what happens? The plant which is having what is called as leaf, suppose if this is a leaf, because of very great scorching sun, when the sun rays are falling over the leaf, it is over the leaf alone which is having pores. There are certain pores. What are these pores called as? There are certain pores. What are these pores? Pores are nothing but openings. Just like our body is having sweat pores, on the same lines, the leaves are having certain holes. They are called as pores. In the biological language, they are called as somatic pores. No need to go for that particular word, since just I am remembering that one, right? What is the name of this one? Is called as somatic pores, right? These pores are facilitating. When the temperatures are very high, these pores are facilitating the movement of water from the plant to the atmosphere. Means what? The water that is present in the plant is lost to the atmosphere. Such type of loss of water to the nature from the plants is called as transpiration. This is called as transpiration. What is transpiration? Is nothing but perspiration of our body. What is perspiration? The sweat will be coming out from the body. Clear? When the sweat will be coming out? Whenever there are temperatures are very high. If the same process happens in the case of plants, like when the plant is losing all the moisture, when the plants are losing the moisture, where it is called as transpiration. Is it clear? It's called as transpiration. The moment once the loss of the moisture takes place, it is lost forever. What is this area? This is the desert area. As such, there is no water. When the loss of water is happening on a large scale, then what happens? The plant tries to preserve the water. The plant tries to save the water. How the plant can save the water? It can save the water by modifying the structure of the body. What is the structure of the body? It is having the leaves. Now the leaf is molded, twisted, and the surface area of the leaf is reduced. The moment when the surface area of the leaf is reduced, now it got turned into like this. When the leaf is been twisted like this, when the leaf get twisted, it turns into very sharp edged material where it is called as thorn. This is what called as thorn. If it is smaller, it is called as spine. Spines and the thorns. These are the elements which are present for the plants. Why the leaves are modified into thorns? In order to save water, save moisture. Means what? In order to stop transpiration. Why the leaf alone needs to turn into thorn? Because it is only through the leaf the water will be lost. Nothing but the moisture is lost from the plant into the atmosphere. In order to save the moisture from the plants get modified. Such a modification, nothing but changing of the body structure, is called as morphological adaptation. This is called as morphological adaptation. Is it clear? Which part of the plant where the spores are present? Only in the leaves. From the leaves only where you can find 90% of the moisture lost. When the moisture is losing from the leaf, now the plant, whenever it doesn't want to see the loss of the moisture, what happens? The plant will be modifying the leaf in the form of thorn. Such a modification of the body part of the plant permanently or for a prolonged time period, this is what called as the adaptation. What type of adaptation? It's called as morphological adaptation. Is it clear? This is what the morphological adaptation. Fine. Why the leaf is getting converted into thorn? It is because of lack of water. Means what? What is that factor that is limiting the phenomena? It is called as law of limiting factor. Very, very important. Come on. It's called as law of limiting factor. Come on, understand this point. Very, very important point. What do you mean by law of limiting factor? What do you mean by law of limiting factor? There are certain factors where they will be limiting some adaptations. Like the best example, the water availability. The water availability is the one which is the factor for the formation of the thorn. The leaf which is supposed to be open to the sky, it has turned into a thorn where it got molded, twisted, and it has turned into a sharp needle-like structure. This is what the thorn. Who has made the leaf to turn into thorn? It is lack of water. Therefore, water is the limiting factor for the formation of thorn. In some of the areas, come on, in some of the areas, you will be finding huge amount of water, especially in the rainforest. In the rainforest regions, what happens? Almost all every day there is a rainfall. Where do you find such type of rainfall? It is in the equatorial region. In the equatorial region, it is said that out of 365 days of a year, more than 250 days, you can find the rainfall. When the rainfall is happening almost all every day in a year, there is no question of saving the water. Therefore, there you can find what type of vegetation? You can find the vegetation which is called as the broadleaf vegetation. You can find broadleaf vegetation. Means what? The leaf size will be very broad like this. The size of the leaf will be very broad. The size of the leaf that is present in the equatorial forest is very broad. Why the leaf of the equatorial rainforest is very broad? What is the limiting factor? What is the limiting factor? Come on, answer for this one. What I have given, what do you mean by limiting factor law? Law of limiting factors tells that which factor is limiting certain structural changes. What is that limiting factor? Non-availability of the water. When the water availability is not there, the leaf got converted into thorn. Who is responsible? Water is responsible. Now, why there are broad leaves in those areas where the rainfall is very high? Explain what is the limiting factor. Come on. Vedant. Wonderful answer. Good. Only Vedant is giving the answer out of 80 plus students. Which is the law of limiting factor? Is the question clear? See here, what is the concept? What is that factor which is making the leaf to get converted into thorn? It is lack of water. What is that factor that is making the, yes, Tushar, Rahul Srivastav, Sanatan, yes, very good. What is that factor which is making the leaf to have a broad structure in the equatorial rainforest? The answer is Bajinder, Ritvik, Nikita, Rishabh. Nikita is giving the answer like water and sunlight. No. Mausam Jain. See here, Mausam Jain has given the answer like surplus water. Mausam and Nikita, they are talking about the water. No, water is not the answer. Mansi, sunlight. Very good. Then Sahu, Tushar. Yogendra again is talking about the water. Now understand this one. All the people, 80 to 90% of the people are right, but some of the people, Gudia is also talking about the water. Don't talk about the water. Now see this one. Now see this one. Why the leaf is broad in nature? It's not because of excessive availability of the water. Whenever more and more availability is there, so that we can lose more and more. That's why the leaf is larger in size. Is the reason or what? No. Don't talk about the wastage of the resources. Every time nature will be talking about those resources which are limited. What is that limited factor with which the leaf got converted into thorn? It is the water in the desert areas. When the water is available on a large scale, don't say that because of more and more water that is available, as there is no need to save the moisture, therefore the leaves started growing larger to lose more. Never say that particular point. Why? Because why the leaf is growing to a larger structure, to such an extensive structure? Because the limiting factor here is sunlight. Whatever is scarce, whatever is sparsely located or sparsely available, you need to talk about that particular factor. In the equatorial region, because of the rich canopy in the equatorial forest, have you seen this equatorial forest? Might be in the geography, you can find such a huge forest like 3-layered structure. You can find 3-layered structure of vegetation. When the vegetation is having 3-layered structure and the canopy, what do you mean by canopy? The crown of the tree is such a dense, huge, larger in size, sun rays cannot reach the surface. When the sun rays are unable to reach, now the plants that are present here, the small plants that are present here, they make their leaf to grow extensively, so that at least one part or the other part of the leaf, it can receive the sunlight. In want of sunlight, the leaves are made broader. Therefore, the limiting factor is sunlight. Such type of questions can be asked. If the questions are from the ecology, such type of questions can be asked. Right? This is what the question that can be asked, which is called as law of limiting factor. Very, very important. What do you mean by law of limiting factor? There are certain factors, they are the geographical factors or the climatic factors, whatever the factor, which inhibits the growth of one particular part of the species. Either it may be leaf, either it may be some other product. Right? This is one called as the law of limiting factor. Is it okay? Now, one more point. Add one more point to this morphological adaptation. In the morphological adaptation, what is the example we have given? Xerophytic vegetation. What is a xerophytic vegetation? The thorn bearing vegetation. When the leaf is being molded, into a small, sharp thorn, then which part of the leaf will be green in color? Which part of the tree is green in color? It is only the leaf part, right? In the entire tree, which part is green in color? It is normally the leaf. Leaf is the one which is green in color. Why the leaf is green in color? Because of the presence of the material called as chlorophyll. What is the duty of this chlorophyll? Chlorophyll is the one which can convert the photo energy into chemical energy. When the leaf is molded in the xerophyte and it is the spores and the chlorophyll is present inside the thorn, who will be performing the photosynthesis? When there is no food, the plant dies. In our house, in the kitchen, mom will be will be preparing the food. When she is preparing the food, entire house will be having the food. Right? On the same lines, in the tree, who will be preparing the food? It is the chlorophyll that is present within the leaf. Not the stem, not the branches, not the root is having the capacity to prepare the food. Nothing but the chemical energy. It is only the leaf part which will convert the photo energy into chemical energy. That energy needs to be supplied to all parts of the body. Now where the chlorophyll got trapped? The chlorophyll, because of the molding of the leaf, where the chlorophyll got trapped? Within the leaf. When the chlorophyll is there within the thorn, how can it prepare the food? Therefore, see the mechanism. The nature is so beautiful. The nature is such a beautiful one. When the leaf is getting modified into thorn, now the leaf is requesting the stem, saying that, see, the water is not there and you people require food. I am modifying my leaf so that the chlorophyll that is present will get stuck up there. Why don't you take the responsibility? Who is requesting whom? The leaf is requesting the stem, and the chlorophyll is transported to the stem. And now who will be performing the process of photosynthesis? It is the stem part. That's why all the stems of the xerophytic, vegetation are green in color. The transfer of responsibility shifts from the leaves to the stem. Again, it is a process of adaptation. Could understand? The process of the responsibility which is transferred from the leaf to the stem. Who will be performing the food in the xerophytic vegetation? It is the stem part. That's why all the stems, you take any stem part of any xerophytic vegetation, it will be green in color. It will be waxy and even it will be green in color. Have you ever seen this type of vegetation where they are called as cactus? Best example, the example of the xerophytic like cactus, acacia, where there will be something like this. You might have observed this type of species like this. All these are the waxy stems. This is called as waxy cuticle. This is called as the waxy cuticle. Yeah, over this one again there can be another waxy cuticle like this. Or you can find such type of species where if at all you are there in the Deccan Plateau, you can find more and more such type of vegetation. Or if at all you are there in the Rajasthan, Gujarat region, yes, you can find all this type of vegetation. This is what the cactus, acacia. Nowadays, the cactus has become a very important interior decorative plant. Many of the so-called the 5-star hotel or some of the very important meeting places, where at the one corner of the room, they will be keeping a pot in which you can find the cactus variety, round ball with all the thorns. And these people, as they have purchased with paying so much of money as a token of taking care, they will be keep on pouring water. When they keep on pouring water, what happens? Whenever the water availability is there, then the leaf will not be in a form of a thorn, it will turn to open itself. This is what the condition. Clear? This is what the xerophytic vegetation. This is the process of adaptation. The thorn development over the body of the plant is the process of adaptation. Which type of adaptation? Morphological adaptation. Also in the case of animals, the best example is development of fur over the body of the animal. Fur bearing animals. What type of animals are the fur bearing animals? Those animals which are located in the cold climatic conditions. See the nature. As we people, the so-called human, since we are having a very great knowledge, therefore we try to protect our body with a sweater. Right? What is a sweater that is naturally available for the animals which are located in the cold areas? The development of the fur. The fur will be grown on their body and the fur will be protecting the body of the species. What type of animals will be developing the fur? Only they are living in the cold climatic condition. They alone develop the fur. See the animals like goats, sheep, the goats, sheep, also the animals like bear, also the animals like, you can find the animals like yak. The animal like yak will be developing a great fur over its body. Clear? Whereas camel, if you see the camel, can you see the fur that is developed over the camel? Camel asses is located in the warm and the hot climatic conditions. If the fur is developed, what happens? It cannot sustain there. Could understand? This is what the nature has created so many adaptive mechanisms. Because of that adaptive mechanisms, what happens? You can find the changes on the body structure. If at all you are seeing the camels that are located in the cold areas, there are certain camels you can find even in the cold areas. The best example, Ladakhi camels, where they are having double humped. Over the hump of the camel, you can find fur. Whereas the same camel, if it is broad or if it is present here in the desert areas, the hump of the camel is not having fur. Could understand? This is how the adaptation can be seen here in this region. Is it clear? This is about the morphological adaptation. There are certain rules regarding this adaptation, like Allen's rule. There is a rule called as Allen's rule. The next one is called as the rule called as the Gloger rule. We will be seeing this, what is this Allen rule, what is this Gloger rule after a small break, right? Let us go for a small break. After the break, we will be taking the question of Mr. Rishabh. I didn't see this one. Does shedding of the leaf is also example? Yes, we'll come to that one, okay? Let me complete all the adaptation processes, then we'll talk about the shedding of the leaf, right? Go for a small break. After the break, we'll see the remaining things. Yes, welcome back. Now, let us see the first of all questions raised by Mr. Rishabh. Rishabh has got two questions. The question like, the plant shedding their leaves. When the plant is shedding or the tree is shedding its leaves, is it an example for physiological adaptation? Yes, it is a physiological adaptation. Because physically it is performing certain activity, therefore it is called as a physiological adaptation. Then the next question that is is given, why there are thorns for the trees like plants like a rose plant or some of the other plants, like where you can find the bear kifl, right? For this one, why the thorns are there? What is the example for the morphological adaptation in our case is the xerophytic. I am not talking about those plants where they are having other adaptation techniques, like the best example in the case of rose. There is no question of holding the moisture there, or for the case of the bear plant where it is not the leaf which got turned into thorn. That is a protective mechanism, protection from the predators. But here in our example we are talking about only the xerophytic vegetation. Only about the xerophytic vegetation where they are performing the morphological adaptation. What do you mean by morphological adaptation? Nothing but change of its body parts into different structures. Like leaf is getting converted into what is called as thorn. Is it clear? This is the best example. Having the thorn for the rose is another mechanism, is a protective mechanism. Okay, that is a protective, that is not the example we are talking about here. Here the example for the morphological adaptation is having the thorns, having the leaves getting converted into thorns. Is it clear? Come on, take down the notes. Take down the notes regarding the what is called as morphological adaptation. After the morphological adaptation, then we'll move into the next one called as the behavioral adaptation. Come on. Give the idea as morphological adaptation. In the morphological adaptation, the changes in the external appearance of the species takes place. In the morphological adaptation, the changes in the external appearance of the species takes place. In the morphological adaptation, the changes in the external appearance of the species takes place. These changes are guided by the law of limiting factors. These changes are guided by the laws of limiting factor, law of limiting factors, not laws, LAW, law of limiting factors, law of limiting factors. Example, in the xerophytic vegetation, XEROPHYTAC, spelling is there on the board. In the xerophytic vegetation, the leaves are modified into thorns. Leaves are modified into thorns or spines, SPINES, are modified into thorns or spines, and the stem will be waxy in nature. The stem will be soft and waxy in nature. Also, the stem turns green in color due to the transfer of chlorophyll from the leaves. The stem turns green in color due to transfer of chlorophyll from the leaves. The stem turns green in color due to transfer of chlorophyll from the leaves. The photosynthesis is being performed by the stem. Photosynthesis is performed by the stem. The law of limiting factor in the xerophytic is availability of limited water. The law of limiting factor in the xerophytic vegetation is water, availability of the water. Full stop. In the case of broadleaf vegetation, in the case of broadleaf vegetation, the case of broadleaf vegetation, the law of limiting factor is sunlight. The law of limiting factor is sunlight. Full stop. In want of more sunlight, the leaves are made broadened. The leaves are made broadened. The leaves are made broadened. Leaves are made broadened, right? Then full stop. In the case of animals, these are the examples for plants. The rest examples xerophytic, right? In the case of animals, the character of fur development over the body, is the best example for morphological adaptation. In the case of animals, the character of fur development, fur development over the body of the animal, is the morphological adaptation. Example, polar bear, merino sheep. The name of the sheep is called as merino sheep. Merino sheep. Example, merino sheeps, polar bears, yaks, Y-A-K, yak. Double humped camels, double D-O-U-B-L-E, double humped camels. Double humped camels. Okay, these are all some of the animals. Now, by studying the, listen this one, okay, double humped camels, give a full stop there. What is the fur development of the animal called as? Is called as the morphological adaptation. Which animals can develop the fur over the body? It is those animals which are located in the cold areas, right? Whereas the animals which are located in the warm region never will develop the fur. Clear? This is what the observation made by the ecologist, and they named it as morphological adaptation. Now, listen this point is very important. After writing all these things, now just hold on for just 2 minutes, don't write, listen first, then I will dictate, then you can write, right? Listen this one. There was a very great personality where he was a great ecologist by name Mr. Allen. What he discovered by studying the structure of animal, by seeing the morphological structure of the animal, he came to understand that the species which are located in the cold regions are having shorter limbs, shorter ears, shorter nose, even the shorter tail, so that they can preserve their energy within the body. Whereas the same type of species which are located in the warm region, they are having longer limbs, they are having longer ears, they are having longer snout, is called as snout, mouth is called as the snout. What he is comparing, he has studied the animal called as Arctic fox. He has studied the animal called as Arctic fox, and also he observed number of other species which are common in the cold areas as well as the warm areas. When the animals which are common in the cold areas and the warm areas, he has studied the body structure of these animals, and he came to a conclusion that animals which are located in the cold areas are having lesser surface area, are having less surface area. Less surface area, so that they cannot lose their warmth easily. Whatever the heat that is present in the body cannot be lost very easily. When the loss of the heat that is present in the body cannot be done, whenever the surface area is less. When the surface area is large, definitely you can find the loss of the heat into the atmosphere. Therefore, in order to preserve the heat of the body, the surface area of the animals is being kept low. That's why the animal size may be larger, like the size of the animal may be larger like this round ball like structure, but its surface area is not like this. Which is having more surface area? See this one in the image 1, image 2, which is having more surface area? Which is having more surface area in the image 1 and image 2? Less surface area in the image 1, whereas more surface area. See this one, more surface area like this. The surface area is more. More the surface area, more the capacity to lose the heat. More the surface area, more the capacity to lose the heat. This is what the condition. That's why the people, whoever they are living in the warm climatic condition, their body is heavy in nature, 6 feet of height, because they need to lose more and more heat. This is what Allen said. He is not comparing with the human, but he is comparing with the animals. He said that the animals that are located in the cold climatic condition, their surface area is less, whereas the animals that are living in the warm region, their surface area is more, in order to preserve heat there, in order to lose heat there. Could understand? This is what the This is what, yes, the second figure is having more surface area. See here, this I can demonstrate with the help of a one small example. Where do you find more surface area? Why the surface area, whenever is it increased, how the heat is being lost? It's a general understanding. What is a very general understanding? Suppose whenever you are taking the case of your bike engine, all you might have seen the bike engine, the so-called bike that is present in the market. All the bike engines are visible outside. You don't need to open the bike to see the engine. How the engine? The structure is like this, something. This is a piston, and the piston is having all the plates like this. Aluminum plates will be kept here like this. All the aluminum plates are kept like this. This is the structure of bike engine. Clear? Why the bike engine is having a series of plates, in between the rubber will be there. Have you ever seen this one? Hero Honda or any bike, whenever you are taking any bike, you will be seeing some plate-like structures. What is the need of this plate? Come and understand this one. There is no need to keep these plates. If at all, the heat is lost easily. What is this one? This is the piston. What is happening here? Within this piston, you can find the what is called as the pump, which is moving up and down. It will be moving up and down. Where it will be having the spark, the petrol will be inserted in a drop by drop fashion, and the petrol is being made burning. When the burning of the petrol is there, because the heat energy where it is supplying the energy to other parts, this is what it is moving. The piston is moving up and down like this. In this friction, because the friction created by the piston, there is a tremendous heat. So great amount of heat energy is there. In order to lose the heat quickly, what is being made? The surface area is enlarged. Then what happens? The heat that is produced here enters in all the surface area. As it is open to the environment, the air that will be touches, the air will be touching and the heat will be lost very quickly. Very quickly the heat is lost. When the heat is lost, the piston cannot be melted. Therefore, the piston is maintained as it is in the original form. Had these plates are not there, the piston get melt because of the heat preserved or the heat produced within the piston. This is what called as the surface area. Increasing the surface area. In a very, very smaller example, like suppose if your mom is making a kheer, if your mom is making kheer for you on your birthday, if you are given kheer in the glass and if your brother is given the kheer in a big plate, who will be finishing first? Because of larger surface area, heat lost is quick, whereas in the glass, heat lost is less. Do you understand? Therefore, you need to blow more and more and then you need to consume. Whereas your brother will be having a nice suppling of the kheer. Why? Because larger the surface area. Same is the principle. Same is the principle. Is it clear? Don't write all these silly things in the exam. It is for our understanding, right? Now, this is what called as the larger area. Come on, this is what the Allen's rule. Write down the Allen's rule. Allen's rule. What is Allen's rule? A-L-L-E-N'(S). Allen's rule. The size of the animals in the cold climatic conditions, the size of the animals in the cold climatic conditions, though it is larger but the surface area is small. Though it is larger but the surface area is small. Though it is larger, the surface area is small, comma, within the brackets, within the inverted commas, not brackets, within the inverted commas. Write down as it is given by Mr. Allen. The tail, T-A-L, the tail, comma, snout, S-N-O-U-T. What is snout? Nothing but the mouth of the animal, right? The tail, comma, snout, S-N-O-U-T, comma, ears, E-R-S, ears, and legs of the mammals, legs of the mammals are relatively shorter in the colder parts than in the warmer areas. Close the inverted commas. Than in the warmer areas. Example, Arctic fox. This is what the example he has given, and he is explaining. Arctic fox can be seen, means what? Fox can be seen in the Arctic Circle as well as in the temperate and the tropical area. When he is observing the fox of the temperate or the tropical area, the tail is so elongated, whereas the tail of the Arctic fox is smaller. The snout of the Arctic fox is smaller when compared to the tropical fox. The tropical fox is having very long elongated snout. The ears are very, very larger in size in the tropical areas. Why? Because in order to release the heat quickly, whereas here in the colder areas, no need to lose the heat. In order to preserve the heat, the surface area is made lesser. This is what the Allen's rule. Question can be directly asked in the prelims. They will be giving the name of the rule and they will be giving ABCD, or they will be explaining entire rule and they will be asking which is the rule, which rule is this one, A, B, C, D. They will be giving 4 names. Clear? When you are talking about the body size, nothing but the morphology, the change in the body structures, physical appearance changes, which is nothing but morphological adaptation. That's why Allen's rule is being discussed here in the morphological adaptation. Right? The next one, the next rule called as Gloger. Give the heading as the Gloger rule, Gloger. Again, this can be a question. Gloger rule. What is this Gloger rule? What Gloger rule has said? Let us see the Gloger rule. Species in, write down first of all. Species in. Okay. Species in warm, humid climates. Species in warm, humid climates bear species in warm, humid climate bear species in the warm, humid climates bear dark pigment. Species in the warm, humid climates bears dark pigment over their body or over their skin, than the races of same species in the cool and dry climate. Than the races of the same species in the cool and dry climate. Close the inverted commas. You start with the inverted commas. Species in the warm, humid climate bear dark pigment over their skin than the races of same species in the cool and dry climate. What that means? That means what? Whenever you are moving from the equatorial region to the polar region, what should be the color of the skin? It has to be keep on decreasing in the pigmentation. The dark color needs to be reduced. That's why if at all you are seeing the African people are pitch dark. The skin color is very dark. As and when you move away from the equatorial region, the skin color turns brown. The brown gives way to the fair color, then it gives way to the red color. The best example, the people of Scotland, the people of England, the reddish color people, they are having the red color skin. Whenever you are talking about the equatorial region, the people's skin color is dark. If at all you don't want to compare the Africa and London or some other areas, let us take the case of India itself. Whenever you are talking about the people from the South India and the North India, definitely the South Indian people are having somewhat dark pigmentation than that of the North Indian people. This is what he is talking about, the color pigmentation of the skin. What is the rule? It's called as Gloger rule. Gloger rule, right? This is about the rules that are present in the ecology, which comes under the morphological adaptation. Then after the Gloger rules, move to the next one called as behavioral adaptation. The third one is called as behavioral adaptation. What is this behavioral adaptation? Come on, let us see this behavioral adaptation. Means what? The behavior of the species will be changing. Now, what is this behavioral adaptation? Whenever there is a variation, wide variation in the climatic conditions, less the variations, no much adaptation. Wide variations in the climatic condition, more the adaptation. Means what? See this one. The areas like continentality, wherever the continentality prevails. What do you mean by continentality? What is continentality? Continentality is such a condition where the maritime influence will not be there on that particular area. Suppose if this is the area, the areas which are located in the middle of the land, this is a continent. This is all now oceanic body. This is the oceanic body. What will be happening here? There will be a wide range of temperature. What is the temperature? In the peak summers, the temperature reaches to 50 degrees centigrade. In the peak winters, the temperature dips to 0 degrees centigrade. Unlike the places which are located near to the water body, these areas, never the temperature rises more than 35, never the temperature dips to less than 15. Whenever you are seeing the range of maximum temperature and the minimum temperature, what is the range? 20. Here the range is 50. Who will be having, or which localities will be having high range of variations? It is continentality regions. It is the continentality regions. Clear? Might be you might have got this information in geography. What do you mean by continentality? Being located within the continents, not having the impact of maritime influence. What do you mean by maritime? Nothing but nearby water body. The best example, Delhi, Chennai or Calcutta or Mumbai. You can talk about any city, Mumbai, Calcutta or Chennai. Never the climatic conditions are having such a great variations. Whereas in Delhi, if at all you are living in Delhi, you should be having two very important instruments. One is the room heater, another one is the AC. In the summer, you need to have AC. Without AC, life will be horrible. Without room heater, again the life will be horrible in winter. This is what the condition in Delhi. Why? Because being located deep within the continents. In such areas, come on, in such areas, whatever the species that are living there, the species can either adapt to one type of climate but not the both. Either to the cold climatic conditions or to the warm type of climatic condition. Any species, you take bird, you take animal, you take reptile, you take mammal, you take any other species, it can get adapt to either one type of condition, like either it can be cold or warm, but not both. When the species cannot adapt to either cold or warm, during the season, one season when the temperatures are very high, another season when the temperatures are very low, during one particular season it has to behave indifferently. What is that behavior? Migration is the best behavior. Migration is the best example for the behavioral adaptation. The species has to migrate. Why? Because it cannot tolerate the other type of climatic condition. If it is adapted to cold climatic conditions, it can live in winter. If it is adapted to warm type of climatic conditions, yes, it can stay in summer. But as a species cannot adapt for both type of climatic conditions, in one season it has to definitely migrate. Migration is the best example for the behavioral adaptation. And so the species like Siberian crane, and so the species like Siberian crane which will be migrating all the way from the Siberia to Rajasthan. There is a national park called as Kevladio National Park. To this area it will be migrating. This is the national park is located in the Bharatpur district, therefore it is also called as the earlier name. The earlier name of this national park is called as Bharatpur National Park. To this national park where the Siberian cranes will be migrating. When they will be migrating? During the winter. Also the best example we discussed in the introduction is called as Amur falcons, right? This is the Amur falcons, right? Amur falcons are the falcons which are moving all the way from Amur region of Russia, China to, in fact they are moving to Africa. In between they want to take a temporary halt and therefore they came to Nagaland. The name of the lake is called as Doyang Lake. Doyang Lake. What is the name of the village? What is the name of the village? Can anyone name the village? The name of the village in Nagaland. Probably this can be a question. Don't turn the page. Try to recollect from your memory. I have given the name of the state. I have given the name of the lake. Can anyone name the village? The name of the village is very, very important. One letter is missing, Mr. Abdul Muhammad. Devyansh. Yes, Vedant has given the right answer. Yes, Mansi has given the right answer. Anshulika Rajput, yes, right. Taruna, yes, right. Very good. You people are having that memory. Then Sahu is also giving the right answer. Wonderful. The name of the village is called as Pankti. Pankti village. Yes, Rahul Srivastava. Right? This is what the name of the village. These animals, the animals are migrating to the place where from there the natural place to some temporary place. Is it clear? This is what the Amur falcon Siberian crane. The place where the animal is living, the place where the species is living is called as habitat. Is called as habitat. Come on, write down there itself. What is habitat? Habitat is a place of living of the species. What is habitat? Habitat is a place of living. The habitat is a place of living, right? This is what the habitat. From one area to another area they are moving. Therefore, these species are having two habitations. When there are two habitations, why they are having two habitations? The question can be asked like this. Which of the following adaptations? Come on. See the question. Question. Which of the following adaptation adaptations which of the following adaptation creates two habitats for the species? Two habitations for the species. A, B, C, D. The first one physiological, the next one morphological, then behavioral, acclimatization. What should be the answer? Which of the following adaptation creates two habitats for the species? Whenever there are two habitations, nothing but it is the animal or the species is moving from one place to another place. What is the best example? The behavioral adaptation. Very good. Wonderful. Too good. Okay. Now one more question. Very good. Everyone is giving the right answer. Too good. Right? Now see the question. See the question. In which of the following areas? In which of the following areas the species have to adapt, in which of the following areas the species has to adapt, the species has to have low adaptation. A. B, C, D. 1. Equatorial regions, grasslands, tundras, monsoonal. Okay, this is the question. In which of the following areas are the following climatic conditions? I can change the question like, let me change the question like, following climatic conditions, climatic regions, the species have low adaptations. The species has to have low adaptation. Now come on, answer this one. Tushar has given the answer as grassland. Brajinder, grasslands. Rahul is also giving the answer as the grassland. Tundras, Mausam. Neha, B, Tarun, B, Divyansh. Equatorial, Muhammad Abdul. Tundra, B, to migrate, Jaydev. Then Abhishek, Tundra. Sahu has given answer B. B and C. Rishabh is having two answers. B and C. Ayush, C. Parth, C. Arpit, C. Then Deepak, B. Jaydev, B. Mansi, B. Mansi, C. Only one person has given the right answer till now. Chasnur Kaur, C. Sanatan, C. Now see the answer. Yogendra, come on. Most of you people are unable to catch the point. Come on, understand this one. Lanka Durga Shravani, A. Now write this point. Have you written this one? Behavioral adaptation, you didn't write, no? Come on, you write this behavioral adaptation. Siding, behavioral adaptation, come on. Meenakshi. Minahi Yadav, okay? Lanka is right. Fine, write down, behavioral adaptation. Give the heading as behavioral adaptation, come on. Write down the notes. Behavioral adaptation, come on. Migration is the best example for the behavioral adaptation. Migration is the best example for the behavioral adaptation. Come on. Take down the notes. Within the notes, you can get the answer for this one. Come on. Migration is the best example for the behavioral adaptation. If any animal can't hibernate, If any animal can't adjust to the climatic conditions of a region in a given season, if any animal if any animal or species, species cannot adjust to the climatic conditions of a if any animal cannot adjust the climatic condition of a given area in a season, it has to perform undergo a behavioral change. It has to undergo behavioral change. Full stop. The best example for the behavioral change is migration. Full stop. In the polar areas, those animals which cannot hibernate, they will be migrating. Example, Siberian crane, Amur falcons. These are the examples, right? Write down in the next para. Least mobility. Come on, this is a very important point. Come on, write down in the inverted commas. Least mobility in the behavior of the species. Least mobility, nothing but mobility means what? Migration. You oblique write down migration. Least mobility. Least mobility oblique migration in the behavior of the species. Is found in such a climatic area where the changes are least. Full stop. Higher the seasonal variations, higher the seasonal variations, higher the behavioral adaptation of the organism. Close the inverted commas. Higher the seasonal variations, higher the behavioral adaptations of the organism. Now, with this statement, higher the seasonal variations, higher the behavioral adaptation of the organism. Take these two lines, higher the seasonal variations, higher the behavioral adaptation, means what? Higher the seasonal variation, higher the migration. If the seasonal variations are more, there you can find more migration. If the seasonal variations are less, there the migration, the animal need not to adapt, animal need not to migrate. Why? Because there are no seasonal variations. With this understanding, now you see the question, in which of the following climatic regions the species have low adaptations? Where do you find very great variations in the seasons? Where do you find least variations in the seasons? Come on. Now you give the answer for this question. Tushar is right. Mausam is right now. Ayush, Equatorial, Vedant, Taruna. See this one? Now you got the point. Jaidev. All you people are giving the right answer. Mansi Yadav, Srivastava. Now you got the point? Means when I say continentality, you people are unable to understand. Since I believe that you people are very well aware of continentality, therefore I have made use of that particular word. Jasnur, Kaur, Neha, then Parth, all the people are right. All, whatever the answers you have given right now, all they are right. Earlier, there were only just 1 or 2 persons who have given the right answer. Could understand the concept right now? What is the concept? Wherever the seasonal variations are less, there is no need for the species to change, to adapt much. Wherever the seasonal variations are more, in one season, one extreme, another season, another extreme, then the animal has to adapt to different climatic conditions. Therefore, it has to migrate. It has to perform some activity like hibernation, like migrate or do something. Could understand? Where do you find less seasonal variation? Equatorial area. The temperatures more than 28 degrees centigrade irrespective of the season. There is no distinctive winter. When there is no specific season like winter, means what? There is no seasonal variation. When there is no seasonal variation, the animals need not to adapt much. Got the point? This is the logic. This is the understanding you should be having. These are all the adaptation process. All they come under what is called as autecology. What we have seen till now is the autecology. Is it clear? After the autecology, let us move to the next one called as synecology. I give the side heading as synecology. In between, there is a very interesting question. Let us see the question. Let us take the question of Sanatan. Sanatan is having a question. Is the Allen's rule also applicable to human? If yes, then what are some of the examples? If yes, what are the examples? In every discipline, there will be some exemptions. In every discipline, there will be some exemptions. And when it comes to especially this type of rules, definitely exemptions are there. I have given the Gloger rule example by taking the human example. I have explained the Gloger rule by taking human as an example. Like Africans are having the dark pigmentation of the color, whereas the people who are living in the Arctic Circle or the tundra region or the equatorial or the temperate region, they are having the fair colored skin. There I have compared the human so that we can understand very easily. But whereas in the case of Allen's rule, we compare with the species like polar bear, like Arctic fox. We didn't talk about the human. Is this rule applicable for the human? Allen says that it should be applicable to all the species. But he is giving the examples of only animals. He is giving the examples of only animals. He never spoke about the human. If at all we try to apply the same rule for the human, see the human, is it applicable or not? Let us compare. It is quite applicable for the human in the equatorial region. Like all the equatorial people where they are having very great stout body structure. The Negroids are having very stout personalities. But there are certain tribes, the best example, pygmies, short bodied people. Though they are living in the equatorial region, their body is not such a surface area is not there. Therefore, the Allen's rule goes wrong here in the equatorial region. Same is the case with the temperate region. Let us go to the temperate region. What Allen said, the body surface area should be less. Yes, Chinese, yes, Mongoloids, but same latitudes on the other side of the globe, Americans, the so-called Europeans, again they are tall Caucasides. Therefore, Allen's rule is not applicable in the letter and spirit for the human. Got the point? Don't generalize this one. This is the one which is given by the Allen in the case of the species which are located in the Arctic and the same species which are living in the tundra region and the temperate region or the tropical areas. And he is giving all the examples of the animals only. He never spoke about the animals. Right? Yes. Another question. Another example. Another question by Divya. Why monsoonal regions are not correct? It also has less seasonal variation. It also is having less seasonal variation. Very good, Divya. If the answer in these answers A, B, C, D, if I remove this one, if I give as Taiga, then Divya should be right. Got the point? But which type of climatic region is having less seasonal variation when compared between the monsoonal and equatorial? It is equatorial, not monsoonal. Got the point? If the equatorial region is there, you have to go to the equatorial region because the seasonal variations are very, very less in the equatorial region. Why not monsoonal? Monsoonal is having somewhat more seasonal variations than that of the equatorial. But compared to other areas, yes, monsoonal is having less variations. Got the point, Divya? If I change the option A from equatorial to taiga, then Divya should be right. Now the answer should be monsoonal. Is it okay, Divya? Could understand the point there? Not just Divya, everyone. Is the point clear? Whenever the equatorial is there, you have to go to equatorial because the seasonal variation in the equatorial region are very, very less. Fine? This is about the question, right? These are all about the what is called as the Ott ecology. Now let us move to the next one called as synecology. What do you mean by synecology? Come on, write down the definition of synecology. Synecology. Come on, give the heading as synecology. Synecology, the synecological studies talks about how, within the inverted commas write down, how the organisms behave. Synecological studies about, within the inverted commas, how the organisms interact with their natural environment as a group. How the organisms interact with their natural environment as a group. In the synecological interactions, what are there? You can come across population ecology. You can come across community ecology. You can come across population ecology and the community ecology. What do you mean by population? A group of organisms which belongs to the same species, like a group of elephants, like a group of tigers, group of lions, all they come under what is called as population. But whereas community, what is this community? A group of different populations, how they are interacting. Like suppose if this is the area, within this area you can find lions, you can find tigers, you can find deer, you can find grass, you can find trees. Different population, this is one population, this is another population, this is another population, all different populations are there. How they are interacting. This study is called as the synecology. How the populations of different communities are, different populations within the communities are interacting. These interactions are called as biological interactions. These interactions are called as biological interactions. These interactions are called as biological interactions. These biological interactions are of two types. The biological interactions are of two types. What are the two types? One, it can be positive, another it can be negative. One is called as positive interactions. Write down as it is. Whatever I have written on the board, write down like this. What is this one? The first one. Synecology talks about the definition I have dictated. Then write down under the synecology, come across population ecology, community ecology. These interactions are called as biological interactions. The biological interactions are of two types. One is called as positive interaction, and one is called as negative interactions. One is called as positive interaction, and one is called as negative interaction. What do you mean by positive interaction? What do you mean by negative interaction? When two species are interacting with each other, the two species may get benefited because of the interaction, or at least one species is getting benefited. Such an interaction is called as positive interaction. Whereas negative interaction, whenever the species are interacting with each other, maybe both the species get negatively affected, or one of the species get negatively affected. What that means? Suppose there are two species like A, B. Or else, let me give the direct example like there is maybe a tiger is there. And another species like deer is there. This is one population, tiger population. This is deer population. When the tiger attacks deer, what happens to the tiger? The tiger gets positively affected. It is positively benefited. Why? Because it is killing the deer and this deer is being eaten. What is happening to the deer? It is inhibited. It is negatively impacted. Could understand? In this interaction, see, this interaction is called as biological interaction. Study about these biological interactions is nothing but the synecology. How a group of species are interacting with other group of the species. Is it clear? Now, the same is the case. In the, if at all I am changing the species, like I have taken the species like deer, I have taken another species called as grass. Grass is also a species. What the deer is doing? Deer is consuming the grass. When the grass is being consumed, what is happening to the deer? It is getting the energy. What is happening to the grass? It is dying, negatively affected. In the interaction between the two species, one the grass species, another one is the deer species, one is positively benefited, another one is the negatively affected. Such interactions are called as the biological interactions. There are number of such varieties of interactions. All these interactions can be divided into two types. One is called as positive, another is called as negative. What are the positive interactions? The positive interactions like number one is called as mutualism. It's called as mutualism. M-U-T-U-A-L-I-S-M. Under the mutualism, you can find two types. One is called as symbiotic mutualism. Another one is called as proto-cooperation. Whereas the second one is called as commensalism. All the terms are very, very important. Whereas in the case of negative interaction, the one is called as competition. Predation. Within the predation, you can talk about what is called as, let me give as a separate one, why unnecessarily. So, predation. Then we can talk about amensalism. Predation, amensalism, parasitism, These are different types of interactions are there. What do you mean by mutualism? What do you mean by mutualism? Let us see the mutualism. Let me give one best example for mutualism. What is mutualism? Mutualism is also called as plus interaction. Take the table as it is and write down side heading mutualism. What is mutualism? Mutualism is also called as plus interaction. What do you mean by plus interaction? Where both the species are benefited because of mutually exchanging the material. The best example. What is the best example? The best example like honeybee and flower. The best example, honeybee and the flower. How the honeybee is affected? Because it is getting nectar. NACTR, nectar has been observed from the flowers. And how the flowers are getting benefited? Flowers are benefited because of pollination. See this one. In this case, both the species, this one is getting nectar, whereas this one is getting benefited because of pollination. What do you mean by pollination? Dispersal of its seeds to the new area so that the species can take birth there. The spread of the species takes place. This is what called as both the species are having mutual cooperation. Within this mutual cooperation there are two types. One is called as symbiosis. What do you mean by symbiosis? It's called as compulsory mutualism. It's called as the compulsory mutualism. What do you mean by compulsory mutualism? The species has to live in close association, then only the benefit will be there. The best example, coral, polyps and zooxanthellae. What is this zooxanthellae? Zooxanthellae is algae. This is algae. What is polyp? Polyp is the animal which belongs to the family called as Cnidarian. He belongs to the family called as Cnidarian, where the Cnidarians will be constructing the houses, the structures in which zooxanthellae will be staying. And the zooxanthellae will be supplying all the necessary nutrients, gases, required gases for the polyps, and the polyps are in turn supporting the zooxanthellae with the structures where the houses is being supplied, means what? The house is being let free for the zooxanthellae to stay. Therefore, you can find number of species, they will be coming and they will be staying there, which is called as the rainforest region of the ocean. This is called as compulsory. Means what? Suppose if this particular algae is moving out, if it is expelled, if it is going somewhere, if there is no mutualism, means what? If it is not coming in together. When it is not coming together, what happens? The death of the polyps takes place. The coral bleaching takes place. Prolonged bleaching leads to the death of the polyps. In the case of honeybee and the flower, flower will be independently living. Honey will be independently living. Could understand? They will be living independently. If at all they are coming in close contact, then they can get benefited. But here, if they are moving apart, one species will be dying. What is that one? That is a polyp. Prolonged coral bleaching leads to death of the corals. Therefore, there must be mutualism, which is called as compulsory. It's a mandatory condition. Its type of mutualism also called as obligate mutualism. Is called as obligate mutualism. There is another type of mutualism which is called as proto cooperation. Is called as proto cooperation. which is otherwise called as facultative mutualism. See, the terms are very, very important. All the names are very important. Proto-cooperation, otherwise called as facultative mutualism. What is the best example? What is the best example? Recently in the year 2020, National Center for Biological Studies Bangalore means what? Let me write full form again, the people will be confusing. Bangalore has discovered a very great cooperation between two species. One is called as caterpillars and the red ants. Red ants and the caterpillars. What is a caterpillar? Caterpillar is the larvae of the butterfly, where the butterfly will be intentionally keeping their larva in such area. Suppose if this is a plant, where the ants will be keep on moving up and down like this. In this path where the larva was being kept here, the caterpillar will be kept here by the butterfly. The butterfly will be placing the caterpillar. Now these red ants, as they are moving up and down, they are protecting the caterpillars from the predators. Whatever the bird that comes and it wants to eat the caterpillar, now the ants are protecting the caterpillar. As a token of gratitude, what the caterpillar are doing, the caterpillars are excreting certain enzymes. These enzymes are giving very great nutrients for the ants. This is what the recent discovery made by the National Center for the Biological Studies Bangalore in 2020. This is a very, very important relation, which is called as the mutualism type of relation. Under which type of mutualism? It is proto-cooperation, otherwise called as facultative mutualism. One is obligate mutualism. Come on, let us see the spelling. One is obligate mutualism, another one is the facultative mutualism. Okay, let me enlarge this one. Yes, clear? This is what the mutualism is. Nothing but compulsory, obligate, whereas facultative, proto-cooperation, right? This is about the positive interaction under the mutualism. The remaining thing, commensalism, we will be seeing in the next class. Is that clear? The next one is commensalism. Give the heading as commensalism and stop there. We will be meeting in the next class and we will discuss the commensalism in the next class. Until then, take care. See you. Bye-bye.